So the first off question, who is going to close these transactions nationally? Who's going to handle the paperwork? Who's going to handle the title work? Who's going to handle the contracts? Who's going to get the title search? Who's going to facilitate the signing? Who's going to close the transaction? Because if you don't have, a good company that can close these transactions, then you don't have a business, right? That means you're going to have to locate a closing company in each state across the country, and that becomes more difficult to facilitate to try to get deals done, right? So number one, what do? We work primarily with a couple different companies. Number one is Clothesline Settlements. Clothesline Settlements does the majority of our transactions. That's number one. Now, we have given them so much business. We have talked to you guys. We launched Remote Millions and talked about them in Remote Millions, and they got inundated and had to hire, right? They actually had to hire more staff because they were getting so busy from me talking about how great they were, right? So that's number one, Clothesline Settlements. The second title company is Blueprint Title. They do, I think there's about 7 to 8 states, including Texas. Clothesline doesn't close in Texas, but Blueprint does, right? So we use Blueprint primarily in our Texas transactions and a couple other transactions. We try to spread out in areas that they overlap. We kind of spread out the transactions a little bit to give them both business. In California, right, we use Fidelity National Title, and Fidelity works great. Fidelity actually does a lot of different states they can, but we primarily use Fidelity. So we got 3 primary closing companies that close all those transactions across the board, right? Number 2, the method of getting them closed. The method of getting them closed. Do we do double escrow or do we do assignments? We assign every single transaction. But the way we do it is we get a purchase contract from the buyer first. We get non-refundable earnest money, minimum $2,500 up to $10,000, depending on the size of the deal. We always get a purchase contract. In the purchase contract, we have the right to flip it to an assignment contract. So what we do is our standing agreement with Clothesline Title, with Blueprint Title, and with Fidelity is that we're going to get a purchase contract. We're going to send it to you, and we're going to have them submit earnest money, whatever that earnest money is. They're going to wire it in. That earnest money is non-refundable. Once we have non-refundable earnest money, then we have the ability, we have leverage, I guess you could say. So now, like anywhere from 3 to 5 days before closing, we'll send the assignment agreement over to the seller. Over to the buyer. Now, we've had the buyer say, hey, I want to see the purchase contract, right? And we send them the purchase contract. And they go, wait a minute, you're getting an assignment fee of $26,000, right? I want to renegotiate. Well, there is no renegotiating because we have a $10,000 or a $5,000 earnest money deposit. You can renegotiate all you want, but we're not going to accept the renegotiation. You either close the transaction, well, guess what? We'll find a backup buyer to close the transaction, and we'll keep your $5,000, right? So I, when buyers try to renegotiate the deal after they get the assignment, which is rare. I don't want to tell you it happens all the time. It's rare. It's like 1 in 20. 1 in 20. And they know we have non-refundable earnest money, and we know what we're doing, right? So we know what we're doing. We're not going to mess around and screw around with letting them renegotiate the deal because of our protocol. We got non-refundable earnest money. So that's number 2. So our title companies know that we're going to do assignments on all of our transactions. So prior to closing, anywhere from 4 to 5 days of closing, they send the assignment agreement. We send the assignment agreement. We get it signed by the buyer. We send it over to title, and they close the transaction. Now, the worry is, what if the seller sees the assignment of $26,430? Well, the cool thing about Clothesline is they do what's called a blind HUD, right? The HUD, they have 2 HUDs. They have a HUD for the seller, and a HUD is the closing statement, a HUD for the seller, and a HUD for the buyer. Now, the buyer's HUD has our assignment fee, but the seller's HUD does not. It has their closing transaction information. There's no assignment. The assignment is on the buyer's side, which is already, right? It's already, we have assignment contract. The contract's already signed. The funding's already closing. We're already getting the deal done, right? So the bottom line is that, and it's a business to business instead of business to consumer. So we've never had a problem. We've had a couple times that hundreds of deals we've done where a buyer would try to renegotiate the deal, and we just shut it right down because we have non-refundable earnest money. So number one, right? Closing the transaction, we use Clothesline, Blueprint, and Fidelity. The primary means of getting it closed is through an assignment contract, and all three of them know exactly how to operate on that level. Number three, right? How do you get boots on the ground, someone to take pictures of the property? How do you get that happen? How do you get that done? 99.999% of all of our transactions, the seller will send us pictures on the property. Now, we give them a list of the pictures we'd like, and we explain to them on the phone the pictures we would like, right? Now, typically what happens, there's negotiation, right? They want 100,000. We offer 70,000. There's going to be negotiation in between. And there's typically a time where we're going to come up on price from 70 to 73 to 75 to 78, whatever the number is, right? So when we come up on price, we agree and we tell the seller, say, listen, we are able to do this price, but here's what we need from you. Number one, Mr. Seller, we need this list of pictures, and we'll go through the pictures. Number two, right, you have to communicate with our title company and be able to get the documents that the title company needs, any signatures, anything needed, so we can have a timely closing. So if you can agree to that, then I'm going to work to see if I can get the number that you want, $78,000, approved by underwriting. But I just want to make sure you're going to agree to those things, because if not, I don't know if I can get it approved. So number two is you've got to agree to do the paperwork. Number three, you've got to agree that we need to we're going to build a local team in Plainsville, Connecticut. We don't have employees all across the entire country. So instead of having employees across the country, we're going to build a team in Plainsville. And that team could be investor partners. It could be contractors. It could be realtors. So what we'd like to do is schedule a handful of appointments where they can go over there and they can see the property, get eyeballs on the property, and allow us to vet and figure out what team members we're going to work with to be able to get your transaction, on our side, once we're closed and done, be able to monetize that transaction. So if you can agree to those things, I'm going to go to bat for you. I'm going to see if I can get your $78,000, right? So now what you do is you get an agreement from the seller on an increased, a slight increase. It could be $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, whatever the number is on an increased price, if you can get those agreement items, right? So now you go back and you talk to underwriter, talk to your partner, or whatever. You go look at the number, you come back and say, listen, I got approval. I went to bat. It wasn't difficult, but here's the thing, is that those three things are absolutely critical for us to be able to get. If you can't do those three things, then, we're going to have to reduce the price. So hopefully, let me just go through them again. And what happens is you're going to reiterate. And what they're going to do is, how soon can you get me this list of pictures? I'm going to send you an email with, we need a full front picture. We need both side pictures. We need a full back picture. We need a picture of, the kitchen, two different angles. We need a kitchen of the, picture of the bathrooms. We need a picture of the backyard. We need a picture of the, So you give them a list of everything they need. You go through that list and say, hey, and then when you get the pictures, you go back and look at them and say, okay, were you able to follow the list and get everything we needed, right? Because remember, for them to increase the price, for us to increase the price, they have to do something for us to be able to do that. That works 99.9% of the time.